this is Martine Severin. Welcome back to This Is How We Create. So, confession time. Before I launched my podcast, This Is How We Create 6 years ago, I spent actually 10 years 10 years thinking about it, planning it, researching it, and convincing myself that I needed one more thing before I could start. I needed a better microphone, a better camera, a better website, better ideas, better something or another. I don't know. And the whole time, I was just stalling. We all know this. We know I was stalling. But why were you stalling, you say? Well, what I didn't want to admit at the time. I was terrified. And the fear, I think, wasn't just really about being terrified that nobody would listen, but I was also terrified that someone would think I would sound stupid, that I would pour all of my energy into the podcast and nothing would happen. Just my mom would listen. But what really happened, the fear lied to me because 6 years later, the podcast that I almost didn't start has become the single most important thing that I think I've built around my creative practice. And it's not my Instagram, it's not my email list, but it's the podcast. It's how I connect with other artists. It's how I process my creative struggles. It's how I've built a community of artists who actually they get it. They get it. And I think none of that would have happened if I'd kept waiting until I was ready. Spoiler alert, you're never ready. You just need to start. And eventually I just got tired of being scared. And that's when I learned a very expensive lesson about procrastination. But we'll get to that in a minute. So if you're thinking about starting your podcast, or if you're thinking about restarting your podcast, if you've been thinking about it for weeks, months, or years, this episode is for you. Just so you know, you will have an audience. There will be someone who's going to want to listen to you because in 2025, projected global listeners are 584.1 million, and this will be projected to expand by 2027. That's a whole lot of listeners. And now video podcasts are in demand. Thus, you might have noticed that we've gone from just audio to video. And 84% of listeners are going to be listening on their mobile device, which has really made it easier for everyone to listen to a podcast. Plus, the technology for podcasting has gotten so much easier and so much sophisticated since I started just 6 years ago. I'm telling you, it's so much better than before. So you're poised to have all of the tools available for you, and most of them are free. So if you're not convinced, here's my 10-step system that will help you just get it done, just get it done. And it's really quite simple because that's how actually a lot of us start. We don't wait for things to be perfect. We do things when we're uncertain. We figure it out as we go along. And that's okay. That's exactly how it's supposed to happen.
This episode is brought to you by iCode. Every child starts as a creator. They imagine stories, build worlds, and ask big questions. But as they grow up, creativity can take a backseat to routine and screens. That's where iCode comes in. Through after-school STEM activities, iCode's programs give kids a space to create again. Visit icodeschool.com to book a free trial.
So, the first thing that stop most people before they even start. And that would be the topic. What would I even talk about? That's the question. And I get it because when you start out, everything feels really too broad or too narrow, too boring or too niche. You're stuck between nobody cares about me and everyone's already talking about this topic. But here is really what I wish someone would tell me. So I'm telling you, your topic doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to be yours. It has to be something that you can contribute to. When I started my podcast, I didn't think, well, the world needs another podcast about creativity. I thought I need to talk to other artists of color who are trying to figure this out. That's what I thought. That was it. That was the whole concept. Not that I'm going to, I don't know, try to solve creativity because, that doesn't exist. But, or that I have all the answers, or just let's have a conversation I wish I could hear somewhere else. That was enough. I wanted to have conversations that I wish I could hear somewhere else. And that's how you figure out your topic. Start with what you're already thinking about, and then start with what keeps you up at night. Start with what you find yourself explaining to other people over and over and over again. Talk about what you're obsessed with, learning about right now, and that's going to be your topic. Not the thing you think you should talk about, but that thing. It could be something as simple as, how to groom your cat, tips on grooming your cat. It could be as simple as grants, what grants are out there that you need as an artist. It could be something as simple as, this is one of my favorite podcasts, and it's a podcast on sewing. And you might not know this about me. I really love to sew, and I really like quilting, and hearing people talk about quilting or knitting, that's kind of my jam as well. So for me, it was really the love of being a creative professional, and not necessarily the highlight reel of the day to day. I wanted to talk about that day to day. I wanted to talk about money struggles. I wanted to talk about identity questions. And I wanted to talk about, am I still an artist if I'm not making art full time? Those are all the things I wanted to talk about. So I started talking about it. Some people think they need to have their whole concept figured out way before. Like, what's my angle? What's my unique perspective? Or what makes me different from everyone else? And listen, those are really good questions, but at the beginning, you just need a direction, not a destination. So let's say that you have a rough idea and you know that you want to talk about it. Maybe it's food, or maybe it's parenting, or pottery, or software development, or all of the above, because your life is complicated and you contain multitudes. Great, that's great. So now let's get a little bit specific. Not forever, just for now, because the deal is food is just way too broad. But raw milk regulation in Oregon, well, now that could be something. And I know that sounds weirdly specific, and that's really the point. The more specific you are at the beginning, the easier it is for you to find your people, and the easier it is for you to find people who are like super obsessed with the same weird things that you're obsessed with. So now that you've had your topic and you've narrowed it down and you know roughly what your podcast is going to be about, now comes the part that makes everyone panic: the name. The name. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to who've been stuck on the name of their podcast for months. They're waiting for the perfect name, the clever name, the name that's super catchy and memorable and perfectly encapsulates everything that their podcast is trying to do. And I get it. I see what you mean. I think I did about the same thing. I think I spent weeks thinking about the name, workshopping the name, writing the name down. But I'll tell you how you can get around it really quickly if you're willing to do the work. What you want to do is you want to take out a piece of paper, probably two pieces of paper, and you want to start writing down the names of your podcast. Start with number one and come up with variations and go all the way to 50. Around 25, you'll probably start thinking about something and coming up with something that's pretty good. Just continue. If at 25 it sounds really good, you could circle that one and just continue and just keep going and coming up with the name. And once you have your title, say it out loud. See how it sounds. Run it past your friends. Lie awake at night thinking about it. Record the intro to your podcast. See how it feels in your body. Because when I found my name, I captured it. It was perfect. It was going to be wonderful. I recorded my first 3 episodes, using that name, and I had the whole thing ready to go. And you know what's coming, right? And then I waited. I procrastinated. Oh, God. Because even though I had the name, even though I had recorded episodes, I purchased the URL for it. I thought I needed better design, that I needed to set up the website. I needed this, I needed that. And so when it came time for me, even though I had bought the URL, when it came time for me to log my name to register it with Apple, with all of the podcast platforms, it was already taken just 5 days before. Some person had taken that name and published their first episode. And yes, I could have created that podcast with the original name, but I had to pivot and change the name. And so that's why it's now called This Is How We Create instead of the original name. So just as soon as you come up with your idea, go and get it done. And while you're at it, register it with the platforms and then register all of the social media handles because you need to actually probably do the social media handle before you register it with the platforms because you're going to have all that information together before you publish your first episode. Let's talk about your podcast art. If you are a wonderful illustrator or you are a graphic designer, good for you. If you have a friend who's an illustrator or podcast, or if you have a friend who's an illustrator or graphic designer, even better, because they can help you in creating your podcast artwork. So what I did is I went on Canva and it took me maybe 20 minutes, big text, my face, and that was it. Was it perfect? No. Was it good enough? Absolutely. You might also want to create brand photos of yourself. So just go have your headshot taken, find a photographer friend who's going to be able to take a few photos with you. Just remember, you'll need photos that are portrait as well as landscape photos, and you want it to be wide enough for the crop because you'll need it to be able to crop it into YouTube. You'll be able to do a lot of different things with it. So now let's talk about the tech, the tech, the tech. So this is where people really start spiraling because what microphone do I need? What camera? What software do I need? What's the interface? What are the cables? I'm drowning in Amazon. What do I do? So I'm going to tell you something that might sound really controversial. If you're starting badly, that's fine. You can use your phone. I'm serious. The smartphones we carry around have really great cameras and really great microphones. So start horribly. So then in a few years, you could think about how great you've gotten. So that's a really great way to start. There are so many great options right now. There's a $20 microphone from Amazon that will do the trick. It's going to do the trick so well that I'm going to start buying batches of it, about 5 of it, so that I can send it to upcoming guests so that they have good microphones. The point is, you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on gear. You need something that sounds clear enough that people can actually listen to without getting distracted by bad audio. Another thing, though, that's going to be the bar, really just decent audio, and then you could get better. So if you're going to record video, and honestly, I think you should because everything is turning to video and video podcasts are huge right now. Your phone will work. Just make sure you clean your lens and make sure you prop it up so you have direct sunlight on your face and then hit record. So if you want to have a dedicated camera, something like a Sony ZV-E10 is great. I think it's the one that we're using to record this. It's for content creators, and then the autofocus works really great, and it has auto inputs, and it just works. And you don't need to be a cinematographer to be successful with using it. You just need to be visible and focused. So now you've got your topic, you've got your name, you have claimed your URL and all your handles, and you have just learned from all of my mistakes. You've got my gear. Now comes the really, really scary part, and that is actually recording. And here's what I want you to know. your first episode's going to be really bad. It really is. And not because you're bad, but because the first episode is always bad, and that's just how it works. You're going to go back, you're going to listen to it, and you're just going to cringe. You're going to hear every N awkward pause, and you're going to think, I sound terrible. I cannot put this out in the world. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to put it out there anyway, because the only way to start getting better is just to start, right? Progress before procrastination. And the only way to start is to record something that's imperfect and then just publish. I recorded my first 3 episodes. Well, technically, my first 6 episode, if you count the ones I had to re-record after losing my name. They were rough. And the thing about imperfection, it's the Dunning-Kruger effect. When they hear someone who doesn't have it all together, but they hear that that person is just doing it anyway, they admire you for it. So here is what I want you to do. Right now, today, this week, I want you to pick your topic, narrow it down. I want you to choose a name. I want you to check if the URL is still available. Check if your podcast name is still available on all the podcast platforms as well as your URL. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't wait to do it, because I waited and I lost the name I really loved and I had to start over. And I really don't want that to happen to you, my friend. That's it for now. Stay creative.
Hi there. If you're loving this show, would you mind taking a quick second to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite go-to podcast app? While you're at it, subscribe to our Substack newsletter, Creative Matters. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. All right, that's all that I have for you today. Bye.